You ever just be in Brooklyn on a summer night or something and Big come on and you just get that energy? It's a different type of energy.
It's a whole type of vibe, man.
That's what I'm talking about. I just want to wild out.
What's good, everybody? What's good? Welcome back to yet another episode of Off the Strength, where we're giving you the inside look into all things wellness culture. I'm a trainer called Tony, and of course, with me, I got some gentlemen of extraordinary league guys. Let's go around the table and introduce ourselves, please.
K.R. Jones is in the building. Good morning.
Troy Brooks, peace.
Your trainer, Corey.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all types from near and far. You are now in tune to a session where we got the full squad back in here. Let's make some noise one more time, fellas. You know you're going to be in store for a treat whenever we come in on this type of vibe. And you know what, fellas? The last episode that we had, that Reflections episode, was something that has been getting a lot of positive feedback. And I think it's only right that if we coming in when the greatest of all time died on March 9th.
Cause the greatest rapper of all time died on March 9th. God bless his soul, rest in peace, kid.
We got to give him another Reflections episode. We're going to keep hitting him with these mixtapes inside here to give him a little bit different type of energy. I think there might be some important things to unpack in the legacy of the late, great Christopher Wallace, a.k.a. B.I.G.G.I.E. You feel me?
I feel what you're saying. It sounds like you might have a story to tell.
I got a story. Look at what he did.
Biggie.
Sounds like you might have a story to tell.
Came in with a story to tell, you know. First, before we jump into the story to tell, fellas, how y'all feeling? What's going on? How are you celebrating today? Feeling good?
Man, I'm feeling great. Superb, man. Ran here 2 miles, nice pace. My goal was to not die, get here on time, and run sub 10. Be able to do all of that. Just trying to kick the birthday week off the right way, man.
There we go.
My man wasn't even out of breath. I came up, I was like, you good? I checked my story.
I stopped, got a shake. I'm good.
Wasn't
man.
even out of breath.
That's love right there. Did you link up with Run Girl?
I did not, but I just wanted to shout them out for the motivation.
Of course.
Keep me out here in these streets. I told them I'm going to pull up, so when it's time to pull up, I want to make sure I'm not winded.
Yeah.
So this is Run Girl training season.
I hit Walk Boy.
Walk boy.
You know what I'm saying?
That's what you was
Yeah,
on?
I hit
right
Walk
there.
Boy. Yeah,
Not Walkman.
But I leaned into that corner. When I bent the corner, I banked it.
Leaning on the corners, banking into different stuff. I'm really trying to understand where this brother's going one day. And one day I will. But that's not going to be today.
Nah, probably
today,
not.
what we're going to look for is going to be to get that understanding in terms of where we coming in for that March 9th type of celebration. Now, fellas, I want to get into this whole decoding of the late, great Christopher Wallace, like I said at the top of that. And this is going to be an extension of that lyrical exercise. So I say we've already talked about how we go through and break out different lyrics and what they mean to us. I think if we look with modern day lenses back through this context and this canon and this catalog, you can find a lot of good lessons inside here. So we came in with that kick in the door flow, right? We was in here, all right, yo, this goes out to you. You know, your reign on top was short. This is what we coming in for. We all want that bravado, that hype energy. But there's a lot of other stuff that you go through in a short canon, really only 2.5 albums. I'm not counting anything else after that. Them Frankenstein soundtracks, they're not going to be inside this episode. It's like, if you was on the track with a dude that died in 97, he was born after 97, I'm not counting those tracks.
Nah, that's not
Not even a little bit?
I'm not counting those. I've seen a lot of them. I was going through a
Not
few.
even the ad-lib?
You ain't heard the Big and Lil Yachty?
I've gone through a few tracks today, and I was looking at them. I was like, you know what? This ain't going to count. Because I don't think this man would have actually sat down and recorded with you. And that is something that I do have to stress. There was a lot of complexity going on in this guy as a philosopher and as a hip-hop dude. And I say that this wellness story is baked all throughout here. So I want to start off with the positive. Let's start off with the good. And I think that's going to be one of those things that I don't know a more pronounced version of this story starting off from self-actualization, self-manifestation, those tripes that we try to go through and make ourselves, okay, I'm going to say this, I'm going to live this, and I'm going to become this. Juicy, for me, is the quintessential version of what that story is about. So you talk about all the things that you want to get to in life before you actually got to them. Now that we're looking back, we know them rappers' contracts was all kind of trash. You know them dudes wasn't living realistically how they said they was living until they got to the position where they could actually go and rent a Versace mansion and do all the rest of that. Yeah. It was just hype most of the time, but you were telling yourself that you can get to here eventually. I want to talk through that. Fellas, let's go through some of the things that maybe you self-actualized or you brought into life, and you said these words, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm dreaming, and this is how I'm living. Let's go through that a little bit. You got anything on that, Young Jones?
So I just want to harken back to a memory that I had in high school. Shout out to my teacher, Mr. Daniels, at the time. It was a speech class. And our goal was, in order to become better presenters, if you will, we had to give a speech in class. So we had to pick a song and present it as if it was a speech. Naturally, I picked Juicy. So this was way before I knew I was coming to Brooklyn, way before I knew I would be here for 10 years. I just gravitated to Juicy. I picked the lyrics. I got on my little podium, and it was just like, it was all a dream. I used to read. You know what I mean? I just...
You gave it to him?
Went through the whole thing, and it really, I think it just speaks to how powerful it actually is, and that's the first thing that I always think about whenever I think about Big and his memory and his legacy, and it just sounds better when you're in Brooklyn, too. Like, you ever just be in Brooklyn on a summer night or something, and Big come on, and you just get that energy? It's a different type of energy.
It's a whole type of vibe, man.
When I first heard the track, I was a little dude. I was mad young. And I was on the corner, and my boy came with the little cassette tape player. And he was like, "Yo, you got to hear this." And Big, up until then, had mostly made like real gutter mixtape joints. So that track was a wild departure from what you heard from him before, right? And then, the album was what the album was, but that particular song was very different than everything else you had heard. Like Party and Bullshit was the most commercial thing you'd heard before that. So when that track came out, I was like, "Yo, this is different." Like, I gotta be honest with you, the first time I heard it, I didn't really like it. I also didn't pay attention to it because I was prepared for something else. And I think one of the things I can take from that is that a lot of times I'll get my mind wrapped around what I think is about to happen instead of taking what is happening and reacting to that. You get your mind set on something, you get your emotions set on something, and you don't accept things the way you should. And I remember being little, I was trying to listen to like all the tracks and break it down and try to figure out what made him make this album that sounds so depressing, but it's so beautiful. Like, where did he get that from? I remember that the whole time. I remember thinking like, yo, where does that come from? And that's actually what started me writing. The idea that you can take emotions like that, convert them, and come from one persona and one perception and change it to another simply by changing what you wrote for that moment.
It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine.
Salt and pepper.
Heavy D.
That was a lot.
Listen, that was right.
Exactly.
Right
I'm matching my man energy. Yo, what's up?
Energy.
Y'all sleeping, man.
The point I'm saying is, he said hanging pictures on my wall. Let's give hip-hop the credit that hip-hop created vision boards, in my opinion. Yo, Pinterest, vision boards, all this came from hip-hop culture. We used to have, whether it be Word Up magazine, Vibe, Source, all these different things. We were taking magazines. I know I was taking magazines. I was taking out parts of magazines, putting these things up on my wall. Not just because I liked the artist, but because someday I aspired and used these things as a vision in some way to aspire, whether it be a car, it be a house, it be whatever it was. As a student and child of hip-hop, I idolized these things. So I feel like the first mood boards and vision boards were created through hip-hop. You look down the line a couple years later, you go into certain rooms, a certain wellness brand that a lot of us work with, they're big on mood boards. And I remember sitting in a room and we had to create a vision. And the vision was like, what do you want to do? What do you see your 5-year plan look like? So I know I had a baby. I'm on a boat with Chantel and we're holding hands, and the baby has like a little curly fro. And I swear to God, 5 years ago. But over the course of 2 years, all those things happened. So like, we had Sage, didn't know it was going to be a boy, just thought it was going to be a baby, moved out to Westchester. So I just want to talk about just the importance of really manifesting and visionizing these things into existence. And it started with hip hop. Hip hop was the first vision board. I know for me, I was able to manifest things, and that's the correlation that I have with it.
One of those things that, again, your mind is a powerful tool. And I don't know if we actually understand quite how powerful this is. But if we go, as we go through and continue to unpack this, I think this is one of the earliest lessons that I just never paid attention to in the context of time. This man also was looking through, apart from the, positive self-talk, and I can make this whole thing happen. I don't know if you guys picked up on all the Deftones that was inside of most of these lyrics, from Ready to Die to Life After Death to Born Again. There was a constant theme of mental health that we never really addressed. Straight up depression. And nobody, for the length of my fanship of this, I never had anybody look and point out, this man was in some trouble from day one. Suicidal thoughts being on the album. Going through all the rest
Me
of
and my
That was a positive joint, though.
That was actually a positive
song.
That
was a positive track.
If you look at it from the right perspective, that can also be a motivating factor as well. The urgency that you need to find in life if you do know death. changes course a little bit, and it makes you have to focus on something a little bit differently. And I want to go into that aspect as well. First, just let's take a big look at the mental health topics that come underneath some of these titles and some of these different albums, because we can see the positive, but yeah, some of that negative stuff was here for a long time. And if you are coming from these neighborhoods, which I knew very well, yeah, you kind of knew that this thing was always around the corner, and you couldn't really shake it. And it was something that, you know, if you are outside on those hot summer streets where you do hear the Biggie going, you know there was only a matter of time before something else happened too. Being on the park, being outside, playing basketball, and you hear all the things that they're talking about vividly in some of these dreams. Do you guys have anything that you might have had to deal with where the visioneering side might have gone to the wrong direction? Where here's where my fears are, and I know that these are here, but if I keep those with me, they're going to manifest too, just like all the positive stuff.
To just go back, I think it starts with him as a kid, right? So you think of something like Sky's the Limit, and he's like, yo, I'm sewing tigers on my shirt, you know, and people try and clown him. And he like, well, now I got to steal on him in front of everybody so they know I'm the man. So that kind of speaks to his surroundings as a kid and having to prove himself to be dominant in the environment that he's in. As almost like jail-like mentality is like, yo, that's the biggest dude in here. All right, I'm knock him out, and then everybody gonna respect me after that. And now everybody giving me, you know, cookies and butter crunch, right?
Yeah.
So you think of that mentality as it grows up and as he becomes older into these wild streets of Brooklyn that I wasn't here for, but I can only imagine what they was like. And it's just going to manifest differently into something like a 10 crack commandment. So this is the start. This is what I learned in the streets while doing this. And this is why I'm so paranoid. Like, these are the rules that I have to live by in order to survive in this belly of the beast, if you will.
See, it's funny you talk about 10 crack commandments in that context, because in some ways you can say he was getting high on his own supply. Because if you know that danger, you know that struggle, you know where all of that stuff comes from, you got to be able to see it for what it is and not put energy into it and move away from it, because you will get caught in your own supply. That is another side of that story. You guys got anything else as to maybe how you saw somebody use that idea of death as a motivator, or that idea of something that might have been negative and turned it into a positive?
Going back into the depression side of the album, and the fact that, like, you can hear all the sadness in there. A lot of these, like, I can't relate to. Like, I'm dealing with these for like short periods of time. Like, I would shoot over to Brooklyn for the day. So I saw what the environment was like, but I also didn't have to live it. And seeing someone come from that spot, you know, my cousins was over there and everything, and they would always try to come to my crib just to get out for a minute, you know? So to see someone live through it, tell that story, and still keep an overall positive aspect to himself through it, shows you what your mind can do throughout all the strife you're in.
The conversations of death just aren't surprising to people who come from this environment, because you know what time it is. Like, you're not far removed from a situation where a hot summer night, a random shootout shit happens. You just rolling dice, you hanging out, whatever, and next thing you know, you get picked off. Like, he talks about death so much because death is such a prominent thing when you come from certain environments. Brooklyn then is not, where's the Starbucks Brooklyn? That's not the Whole Foods Brooklyn, fam. That's not, let me get a cafe au lait and just ride your bike through that part of Brooklyn. So, like, to me, it's just not a surprising thing when he talks about death, because, you know, at least I know where I'm coming from, where I come from. Like, in the summertime, that's when shit pops off. Like, it's a little bit calmer in the wintertime, but somebody's bound to get clapped, or something's bound to happen when it gets hot outside.
Keep it real. It goes over 85.
I mean? Yeah, people don't know how to act.
It's going to be a liability. You knew that from Do the Right Thing.
Yeah.
They talking about this is a heat wave coming. Yeah. You know some crazy stuff is about to happen, right? And this was another one of those situations where, again, you could hear it in the lyrics. It's coming out. It's like, yeah, a fight's going to break out at some point in time, and somebody's going to pull out.
Yep.
It's not an if, it's a when. You know, and those kind of situations are going to be the things that, again, there's still hope inside that message, like Corey was talking about. And moving through that sadness and finding that inspiration through knowing the struggle side of it leads into some of the story of positive self-imagery inside here too. So if I'm looking through it and this dude is talking about himself, he never was really that complimentary of how he actually looked, what his weight was about, ashy to classy,
black and ugly as ever. However,
exactly. But there was still confidence inside of that, you know. And if we could break that out and understand with that positive self-talk, even though it's kind of negative, there's a duality going on with what this man is saying. Yo, I could be the biggest dude in here, I'm still gonna take you, girl. Right? It's not, and I'm not saying that's the way that we should be looking at it, but that level of confidence Talk about, you guys pull any of that kind of confidence from people that you see with bravado coming inside and it's like, yo, this person should not be winning like this, but their confidence is getting them way past where they should be.
I'm going to just jump out on a ledge and say that Biggie has got me laid on more than one occasion. And very simply put, it was that one line in particular, like, in a few we gonna do what we came to do. I looked at her, she looked at me, she was like, true. I was like, all right, check, please.
Check, please. This is where we at.
I don't need them extra fries no more.
No. Keep the tip. I'm out. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like that bravado that you speak of, that he was the first one to come on heavy with the swag. I'm not saying Heavy D wasn't there or other people to come that way.
But Heavy D
he
was
wasn't
like
the first one.
Heavy D was like a pretty big dude. Like he was like the wavy hair.
I'm talking
dude.
He's the
dark
overweight
skin
lover though, man. Pay homage.
I'm talking dark skin, like someone I could resonate with. I ain't see myself when I saw Heavy D. I saw Big. I was like, yo, I was the little chubby kid with the triangle titties. Like I saw him.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, if he can do it, I can do it. You know what I mean? It was inspiration.
Yeah, Heavy D was like thick Albie Shore. You know what I mean? He had the same vibe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The songs was a lot happier too, so you wasn't really looking at Heavy. I'm not saying that Heavy wasn't out here doing his work too.
Yeah, Heavy did work. No disrespect to
You
Heavy
know,
D.
but you wasn't. That now that we found love wasn't giving you the same that Biggie flow.
Nah. Now that we found love and Me and My Bitch are very different tracks.
Very
Totally different things. Two totally different situations. Y'all got anything on that? The feeling of somebody talking themselves into being like, no, I am this player. This is the dude that you used to clown, but now I'm a player.
That's
How
the
you feel
same
about
energy
that?
you got to carry into every boardroom. When you walk in, you're not supposed to be here. It's just a different flip. You know, he's talking about being the ugly dude and still pulling girls. We're the black dude in a spot where you're not supposed to be and everyone's looking at you and they want you to do one thing. They want you to be very specifically things. So it's the same idea. It's the same vibe of like, yo, I know you think I'm here, but this is where I'm about to be.
Yeah.
He was an opportunist. Yeah. You know, as soon as he bought that wine, he just creep up from behind. You know what I mean?
That sounds some Cosby shit.
He was capitalizing. He was capitalizing on the opportunity. That's what he was.
And he knew how to execute. I got you on that.
Some of them lines you can't quote.
Nah, there are some questionable lines too. He was going in there. There might have been some stuff that my man was suppressing, if we're going to be honest about it too. If we're really going to do the psychological deep dive. There was many a questionable conversation that was had inside these lyrics.
I ain't never seen a woman that looked that good.
Nope. I never had that.
Or a father for that matter. You know what I'm saying? He was wild.
Never seen a woman that looked that good.
But maybe he was just really reflexive. This man might have been from the future is what I'm trying to tell you guys. He might have had you might have had a different association with his pronouns is all I'm saying by the time today came
That
around.
ain't never been a part of the game.
It might have been.
She was never that bad, bro.
You don't know. This is all I'm saying. He might have been future.
I have seen and been
just trying to
inspired
shake
by a
Daddy's
lot of
hand.
beautiful women.
Right? Dap him up.
Yeah.
You have done a good job, sir.
Dad gets a dap.
You might catch a nod, though. You know.
Listen, man, if the game shakes you or breaks you, I hope it makes you a better man.
Okay.
That's really the thing that we're trying to focus on is how did you become a better man going through some of these situations? Now, this brother looks like he was trying to get to a place that he never really got a chance to get to. You can hear it as that evolution keeps going. The death tropes are starting to move away, and it's starting to be more about the celebration of life, and it kind of goes into that whole song that Sky's the Limit, where it's like, yo, this is where I'm trying to go. I'm trying to push everything forward. I'm trying to go past what my past was so I can get into this future. And I got my kids. I got my people around me. I want to lift everybody up around and celebrating that opulence kind of side, that opulence transition. But again, the life that you live still is holding you barren to everything else that you said too. So you put that energy out here that you're this type of person and you never really kind of got to make that transition. So everybody celebrates Malcolm X, but they forgot about Malcolm Little. We never really got to see Biggie make that transition into what he could have been today. I'm joking around, but there's a lot of really progressive thoughts that are coming outside of this thing that seemed like it was a really negative space. You know, I know everybody likes to throw out the Biggie, J, Nas, Pac, who's on there if they would have had a longer career. What's some of the things that you think that this man would have been able to touch if his career was a little bit longer?
I'll tell you one thing is the music started to expand a little bit and it went from just like the Puffy sample and like rapping like you rap in the street and it started to get into some more. And one of the things that I think may have happened is it would have been one more lyric-based rapper and the push for lyricism might have retained for longer. We have patches of lyric-based rappers left, but that particular component seems to be less prevalent in music than it was then. And having one or two more artists that were very lyric-focused might have kept that going.
I feel like you can't really predict what it would be because it's so much of a domino effect. Can't bring up what Big would have been if you're not thinking about what Pac would have been, right? You can't big up what Jay is now if Big was still here. Like, I even think on the lines of somebody like Dom Kennedy, who's from the West Coast, like Lamert Park, grew up not too far from where Nipsey is, and Big was his favorite rapper, right? So that's on a whole nother coast that he's affecting people. So I can't say what his continuation would have looked like because it would have changed so many other things that we now see today. I do think he was on that up and up, like something like The Sky's the Limit. Like, that was a dope song. That was one of my personal favorites. I don't know if he would have been able to sustain that or what the rap climate would have looked like at that point. I can't even call it.
I agree 100%.
You never know. And Jay-Z rising is like a huge afterthought, if you will.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you get to see his full spectrum like a Jay-Z. You saw they started in fairly similar conditions, but now you can see who he is today. And that's the only thing that I'm thinking about. Well, wow, damn, they both came from kind of similar perspectives, had similar skill sets, but, you know, one got luckier than the other one, realistically.
And I don't believe if he was still here that Jay wouldn't be who Jay is today or that Nas wouldn't be who Nas is. I just think the impact, the conversation, it would have just been stronger, I think, if he was here.
Yeah, the conversation was already happening before he passed. So, yeah, they already were established.
I think it's one of those things that's kind of like a force multiplier. So everybody existing in each other's orbits doesn't take away from either one of their gravitational pulls. It actually amplifies it.
That's
right. So we can't change the world unless we change ourselves. Another one of those Biggie tracks that he's coming inside.
That was from the movie, dog.
You're going to get him. You're going to get him. You're going to get this. You're going to get this Biggie today. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Looking through and talking about how they were trying to change themselves and elevate and going through the different processes, got to really take a look back and look at what was born after that. Look at what life after death actually turned into, where this man is an icon on so many different surfaces that I honestly lose count. I've seen the shoes, I've seen wall sconces, I've seen Master P just put out a flavor of chips with Biggie's face on it, right? And I mean that, at least in the sense of Master P, I know those profits are going back to his family.
Absolutely.
I could see where this man's likeness, image, songs, and all the rest of the stuff are being pulled into so many different directions that never had anything to do with what he was intending or what it sounded like he was intending. And I don't know if his family is at all benefiting from that. So we're selling cool on somebody's face, and I take issue with that.
Yeah,
I don't know how you even get reciprocity from that, especially in wellness. I've seen this man's face all over, and I've been
in studios.
Every time white folks want to make you think you in something that has black people involved with it, you see a picture of Big bronzed up or spray painted somewhere or upside down. And
how do we reclaim some of that value? And how do we, I don't even know if the hip hop culture really knows how much we exploit this kind of iconography and this kind of imagery. Because I know I've seen already track lists for today doing all the rest of this stuff. Well, what was you doing giving back to the neighborhood that this man lived in March 9th? There's literally a park right around here. You could do all these wellness classes right inside that park. Where's that energy going? Like, how do we, as stewards of this, as fans of this, as people who want to be about this life and make sure that we continue that legacy the right way, if we're going to be the antidote, what's some of the things that you think we can do to try to shine some light on, hey, this person that has all of this canon that was only realistically accomplished in 3 years is being monetized for a lifetime that his family might never touch. I can't sit still with that, guys. How do you feel about that?
I think, honestly, it just boils down to education and making people aware. You know, the demographic of people that we're speaking about specifically. I was going to mention the studio. You know what? Fuck it. Does it all the time. You go in there, you see Biggie's face everywhere, but you see a lack of representation. Starting to see a little bit more, but I think people from those communities just don't understand. You know what I mean? They love, like I say, they love the idea of us. They love our culture, so to speak, but don't necessarily love us. So going in there and educating or opening the floor to have conversations about, hey, listen, do you understand, like, the where this man comes from and the things that you guys can do in the community to make sure that you're giving back? Since you want to use this man and have him on your wall, like, you could actually pay homage to who this man is by doing X, Y, and Z, making sure his family's situated, doing certain things in his neighborhood, giving back to the community that this man came from. Paying homage that way could be something that could be done.
I feel like they never are going to pay homage. Like, that's not their place. Like, they don't, not to speak for them specifically, but I just feel like they want to use it as inspiration. Like, everybody wants to be inspired by something, and that's how they justify making that photo or making that artwork. I mean, I don't think they'll ever really have a connection to it because they don't understand it. You gotta come from it to know it, right? You gotta understand that aspect, I think. But to your point, for sure, making people aware of what it truly means, of what it is, expanding that full spectrum of the black male emotion, if you will, right? If you understand the commodification of our struggle as always, then you always going to come back to that point of, damn, like, you just want to capitalize off of all this shit that we go through, like day to day, always, you know, the lifestyle that we live. And I feel like until they really understand what it's like, it's never going to be a thing.
But how are they going to really understand what it's like if they're not educated by people who come from that space? It has to start with a conversation. Just the way we speak about privilege or any other thing, it has to break down to, listen, here's a conversation. This is how we feel. Because again, these people might not understand. They don't see it. They can't see something that they don't come from.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, primarily my client base is a lot of people who would have no idea about this culture. It'd be like getting dropped into Japan and misusing Japanese culture and not understanding what you're doing.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect of it. I have a finite amount of energy. So for me personally, that's not the direction that I'm going to put my energy into, trying to educate people who are already profiting from something. So my choice would be more to, one, educate our people on making sure you have ownership of your things that you're creating new. Because the things that have been created, you have a long and arduous task to try to get that credit back. And you also have to make sure that the people who you're doing this task for really want you to. So there's a lot of different steps that come along with that. But when it comes to what's coming forward, when it comes to educating their kids and your kids and making sure that the next generation going forward understands things, that's, for me, the most efficient path and the best use of my time to get something changed.
Well, that's why I think this conversation was important, because I do see this, and they're not the only offenders. I see this all over in different places where you take and you borrow without having the context. It's the people's job who love it to tell the story as to why I love it. So I know what it feels like to wake up fucked up, pockets broke as hell, another rock to sell. I ain't never sold no rocks, but I seen them.
You sure?
Being sold. They look at you like, use the user, Kyle. You know, but seriously, in all honesty, yeah, when you put that person on the wall, you have to understand what that represents inside of that context. So there is a positive story here, but if you never understood what the struggle was about and you only wanted to exploit the positive, then I do have to take that as a slight against what that actually represented, because you're not listening to what he's saying. He said it in all these different lyrics. This is why I'm here. What's your why in terms of why does this person need to exist here? And then selfishly also, I have the same thing where in the business that we own, I had questions about, why are you putting this stuff on the wall? Because I know what it means to me. I don't feel like you understand what that actually means. Like, you're talking about the 10 crack commandments over here. I don't even know if you ever been around anybody that actually had crack in their system.
Have you seen it?
Have you had family members that was on crack? Because you're talking about something that's very real to me. So if you have something that is this serious and you can make it satire, I got to understand how much you put up on here, because I'm going to take offense to it every time I see it. If I don't know that you have that context of appreciation, then I'm going to take that seriously. And I'm going to take a strife against that, and it's always going to manifest into something else. And these are the things that make up who we are. I understand the world through this hip-hop stuff. I understand the world of wellness through this hip-hop stuff, and I see how wellness likes to grab a lot of what we do to keep going further forward. If we don't make sure that we celebrate the people that are on the higher echelon, then they're never going to get celebrated. Yeah. There's just going to be another, whoever is hot right now, there's going to be another place that's opening up, putting their face on the wall, and they're never going to get the credit that they should get. Families going to get left out of the whole conversation, and somebody's going to build a whole ass empire off the cool that you left. I can't sit with that, fellas. No, that ain't going to be me. I got to move where my heart's in it. Sky is the limit. Yeah. Okay. That's how I got to pull up for it, man. So if we are going to reclaim this, I think this fit hop thing is a real conversation that needs to start happening, and it's a thing that needs to move in a realistic way. If we're talking about the sky's the limit and we're going into the future and we want to see where this is going, how do we get the hip-hop community to really realize that they were already here? They're not invested in this wellness conversation the way that they need to be, but they should be able to get all the benefits that they're already missing out on. How do we get hip-hop to invest in wellness?
A lot of it, I think, comes down to whatever your personal access is. So, like right now, you know, if you're an instructor, you're using the music in your class, take the time to let people know where that music came from and what that's about and why we're hearing it right now. Two, a lot of it is where you spend your dollar. So if you see a spot that's not doing the right thing, that's not setting up the stuff, that has the gold-plated wrapper or whatever on the wall, don't go there. Don't give them your money.
So you voting with your dollar.
I don't think it will change until the musicians that are leading the industry, if you will, the leaders of that industry, until we know who their trainers are, the same way we know who Kevin Hart's trainer is. that's when the change comes, right? Everybody, you may not know his name, but you've seen him. Kevin Hart vouches for him. He's there. He's in the background. He's in the movies. He's in his Netflix special. Like, they're together always. Until we see that level of accountability and wellness. And even in that docuseries on Netflix, he was like, yo, I'm busy. I only got 30 minutes right now. And Kevin Hart was still getting it in for 30 minutes because that took precedent over everything else that he was doing. So until we get that level of accountability with the leaders that are up top and we know who their trainers are and we see their daily regimen, there's never going to be a change.
Man, I think we also just have to make sure that we understand the value that comes from there. I don't know if, honestly, the people who are outside the system understand the money that's in the system. So if you knew that wellness was a $4.2 trillion industry and you could put up your likeness inside of a white box studio and I'm just going to take your lyrics and put them on the wall, I'm going to do this, and people are going to show up to come and see the stuff that you were already doing, it's a turnkey system, I think people would actually see that there's money there. So look at what Floyd Mayweather is now doing to boutique studios. Do you really honestly think that Floyd was looking at the boutique market and saying, yeah, this is a good place to invest? Or was it, I see people using likenesses that are kind of like me already with this trend and this fad, and they're making money hand over fist. Maybe somebody on that money team could look at it and be like, you know what? We should probably throw some dollars and cents inside over here because that's what they call boxing. Well, we got an actual boxer over here, and this man has never lost. Which way do you think you're going to spend that dollar? Mm-hmm. Realistically, who created it? Who came up with it? Okay, look at who they already putting on the wall. Now, if I walked in and I saw Floyd put a picture of Ali on the wall, I have no questions. I never would ask. It's like, you never have to tell me why this man is on your wall. I get it. Okay, now let's go down the line and look at where we actually are versus how much we're being used for that profit line. I see the homie Stick down in Atlanta. Stick from Dead Prez, big OG. I got a chance to meet him. I was always a fan, but actually got the chance to break bread and sit down and actually understand why he was doing what he's doing. And I understand his wellness tapes that he's putting out and his fit hop situation that he's putting out, really about him getting to the ground and moving. Like, listen, nobody is out here doing this the way that I think that we should be doing it. So I'm going to put out a positive album that's going to encourage you to work out. I'm going to start a run crew, not a run club, but a run crew. And this run crew is going to go all throughout Atlanta and kind of make this thing happen. I really do think that if the Styles P's of the world, who have the juice bars, understood that juice bar would move a lot better if you had some other stuff around it. Make that work. I really do wish that, okay, yes, you're going to release this Adidas line, but if she had a studio to put that right inside of, that would go way quicker than waiting on somebody else to wear it because we're already watching you to tell us what to do. Let's cross that bridge. Let's get into that gap. Let's see how we can try to really steer that ship. And that's one of the things that I really want to get into on this platform, fellas. I want to try to push this as far as we can. Live in that sky's the limit kind of mentality.
You're goddamn right, Tony.
Hell yeah, man.
Sky's the limit. I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the sense of humor that Big had.
For sure.
You know, from a story to tell, from the skits, the interludes. My personal favorite, he was talking about the young lady.
I don't know which one because there was many young lady
talking
tracks
pickle
on there.
juice drinking,
Oreo eating.
I mean, she asked for a specific act.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
And he turned it down. He was like, no, you crazy. So after you know what I mean? Like after he does this act, like just the humor and the laughter, and I just remember hearing that, like, yo, this is wild. Like people really requesting this kind of thing these days.
Again, he was a future forward thinking person. This man just had different options.
No, but between that and a story to tell was such a vivid story to me. I feel like that was, you know, trapped in the closet before it was a real thing. Like that was a real life situation. And as a kid, the only other story I probably heard more vivid than that was like Slick Rick at the time. I was just like, oh, like this is a thing I can keep up with and understand. So I think his level of humor just always gets overlooked.
Yeah, I think you had to be an all-around entertainer back then. You couldn't break through the mold with just one skill set. That's not really something that was going to allow you to go through. And hip-hop did have to have some of the getting out of the ills of that shiny suit. I got to tap dance. I got to do all the rest of this kind of wild, crazy shit just to get on, to be kind of softening that image. That's why you hear a song like a Juicy, because, yo, if we come out with this Roscoe talk off the top, Hot 97 might not play you. Think about it in context of time.
You could see some of that relationship from the skit before going back to Cali, where, you know, Puff is calling him like, yo, Big, get up. You know what I mean? And you could hear that difference of like Puff being super business and let's go, and Big being like,
I'm gonna do this. I'm from the block. I'm gonna get to this
I'm
thing.
gonna get there.
You know? These soulful ass samples, they ain't really my joint. I want to talk about the shit that I know. I want to kick in the door, Biggie Flow. It's like no. But these are gonna get you to get even further out. So I even like the aspect of that team mentality being critical in that side.
You need that. You need someone who has a completely different vision, or not necessarily vision, but a different way of looking at things. You need a different perspective. You need an alternate eye. You can't always, if everyone's looking from the same direction over the same shoulder, you're only going to see certain things. You need someone looking differently.
If you could be in the studio for any big song to hear them record them, what would it be? For me, it'd probably be Player Haters. Like, I want to see. I know, but that's a funny situation.
That looked like they was wild.
I want to see Puff hit the notes. Kyle, you know you want to hit the notes right now.
Player, hater.
You've been wrong.
That's how you was feeling.
Dog, that shit had to be funny. When he hit the high note,
Yes.
I would have to say the Get Money remix with the what's the dude? What's his name on there? He came.
What?
Yo, the Get Money remix. You know what I'm talking about. The dude was in the group. I forgot what group he was, but this was his first single out. The Don't Look Any Further. The dude who sings Don't Look Any Further was in the group, and this was his first single
Like
as a
solo
solo
singer.
artist. And Big sampled it, so that was the "You can be as good as the best of them, but as bad as
the worst."
That right there, that remix was fire, and I had Little Kim and Junior Mafia on there. Funny story: I went to London. When I went to London, I was in Brixton. And I got that vinyl on the 20th anniversary day, in fucking Brixton, and brought it back to Brooklyn. So that's love right there. But that's the song I need to be there for, just because of that sample.
One of the things that I wouldn't be around for, I don't know if it's the in-studio session, but definitely for the video, I had to be around for that Hypnotized video because that took everybody's budget to a different department.
The backwards, the reverse, and the
Helicopters, the Versace
crazy.
shirts.
Yeah.
I wanted to be on scene for that.
You know,
The Versace silks.
I would like to be there for the One More Chance remix and the conversation on how drastically that song changed from the way it was, the original version versus the remix version, which is what most people hear. Most people know the remix. The original version is mad different. And I would like to be there. I would have wanted to be there for that conversation and that decision and like what made it go, because obviously it was a good decision. The thing moved like crazy, but I'd like to be there for that.
Yeah, all of the remix cred that these dudes really don't get like the shine for. Like I used to look forward to the remix because the remix
Was always fire.
better than the original song most of the time.
But that's what a remix was supposed to be. That's what it was back then.
Yeah, that's how Puff got to be Puff, was the remix.
Like, yo,
now the remix is just, well, you know what? Let's get the baby.
That's it.
We'll throw another person
It's
on
barely
there.
even a beat change.
Yeah, it's not even a
Same beat.
Nothing that
beat.
gives you anything more than that.
To give you the cold hard facts of what I was speaking of.
Uh-oh.
Dennis Edwards sung Don't Look Any Further. That was his first solo single. He was in the Temptations.
Okay.
So he left the Temptations. His first solo single was Don't Look Any Further, and then that's when Big sampled it. So there you go.
All right, at
Capital
some
G.
point.
Put the capital
But the
G on
person
his
who got
Google.
paid for that sample
It's probably Roy Ayers.
It's like,
Because
man,
Roy Ayers is that guy.
The
Yeah,
person
I don't
who
want
got
to take that
the
away
person
from
who
him.
got the check though.
yeah, I'm looking
of
at the
course.
Carfax. It's like Roy Ayers is listed as the songwriter.
If we was talking contracts, I know that contract from the Temptations. You seen the movie. I don't even want to get into
Yeah,
that.
that was a Megan joint.
Yeah, it's all right, man.
Thank you, Mr. Barry Gordon.
Yeah, gotta get him back in there, man. You know, people wasn't paying attention to contracts. Again, they had to say that they was living this life before they actually got a chance to live this life. Owning your masters, getting all the rest of that wasn't the prevalent topic of conversation then. Hopefully it is now, because again, if you own that likeness and you knew how to register your image and you knew how to register all the rest of these things, I'm pretty sure legacy for that family will look a little different.
Yeah.
If a bunch of places started opening up Nipsey Hussle inspired things and Nipsey's family didn't get paid off of that, I'd have a lot of problems.
Well,
For all intents and purposes.
Lauren
it's
seemed like
look
she'll be
that.
at your door.
Yeah, exactly.
Lauren don't seem like she
Kicking the
played that.
full
She'd be at
floor.
your neck.
So I just want to take this day to look back and try to celebrate on that side. And I mean, I think we had a great conversation on that. You guys got anything that you want to go through or talk about in terms of, you know, this whole legacy, what this March 9th thing is, how we can continue to go forward with that?
I think it just continues to stem from what Troy said of educating those people that don't know. If you see somebody with a big shirt on, like, have that conversation. I'm stopping you on the street. Hey, what's up? What's your favorite Big song? Name an album right now on the spot.
You pulling cards?
You don't give me an album. I mean, we're gonna party and bullshit right now. You don't tell me what I want to hear. But I think
some poor little 9-year-old girl with a Biggie shirt on, scared as hell now.
Yo, then make her walk to Brooklyn and get you some fucking cheesecake.
Exactly.
Like
Get a slice.
I think it definitely should. I think we just need to continue to talk to our children and educate our kids. Like once my son like starts to understand music like that, like we got to go through the whole catalog of Big. Like he needs to understand who Big is, what he meant to this music that he loves, right? Because he'll love some form of hip hop, whatever it is. You know, hopefully it'll transcend from the Lils back to what we got going on with Griselda. Because I feel like that boom bap real rap bar situation is coming back. Like, you know, like we always say, 3 lefts.
3 lefts will get you right back to where you started.
There we go, man. So we're making these lefts get right back to where we started with the music. And I feel it's really important to just continue to educate the kids of tomorrow. We got to tell them, you know, it's important that they understand who these artists were, why they're so important to what it is. Just the way we understand the Furious 4, Africa Bambaataa, the culture, where music started from. In order to pay this thing forward, we got to pay homage to where it's come from.
Make sure when you bring that to your kids, you get the Walmart version.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you don't want to give your 4-year-old son Ready to Die unedited.
That might be a little bit tricky.
You're going to have a whole kind of conversation.
You might want to wait until, you know, it gets past its age appropriate or its understanding is appropriate
enough.
Does
that album ever get age appropriate?
I think your mind might be in a better place. You know, there might be...
You need a fully developed mind for that album.
You need to understand context. You need to understand and appreciate where you are in relationship to where this man was. And I think that is something that you can do. I would say my highest of aspirations inside that is to really get this regional feel back into hip-hop, to really get this regional feel back into wellness, is to really go back through kind of like that 3 lefts and get you right back where you started. I want to see a boutique come up with Griselda up in Buffalo.
Word.
See what that looks like, using all that crazy Balenciaga ski mask energy inside there, and then show me what that's going to look like if they're profiting off of it. I want to see what these record labels are really talking about, because we are breaking more music than most of these other places are. So what would it look like if they actually invested inside of places that were looking to open up this thing that is wellness, that will lift up this whole conversation that is hip hop? That's what I want to get to. And I'm going to try to do it 2 times a week, every week, with these fellas inside this room until we get to that space where we can hit sky is the limit.
Baby.
You know it. And if you don't know, now you know. You gotta be serious, man. Damn right I like the life we live, because we went from negative to positive.
And it's all good.
And it's all good.
I was gonna hit the note, but I chilled.
He Mariah carried that joint. He blew the speaker out.
You had a thought, but not that many, man. This was gonna get in there. You gotta give him that good and plenty, Jones. Once again,
don't be mad. UPS is hiring.
Exactly. That's exactly where I'm at.
They not though. They're not hiring at all.
I wish they was.
They're not hiring at all.
Once again,
be mad.
It's been another fantastic episode of Off the Strength. I'm a trainer called Tony.
K.R. Jones.
Troy Brooks.
You're Trina Corey.
Peace and much love to y'all. Until next time, we see you soon.